Christmas is my favorite holiday season. Yes, even over Halloween. The lights, the atmosphere, the music, everything about Christmas makes me happy, especially Christmas movies. There's so many Christmas films out there that they've even made channels dedicated to playing Christmas movies all day long. And they're not your traditional Christmas movies. They're all new ones with actors that we've all seen before but haven't seen in a really long time. But we're not here to talk about those movies, not this year. I want to talk about my favorite Christmas films because every year during this season, no matter what, I have to watch Christmas films. So I decided to put a list and rank my favorite Christmas movies. Now, I'm not saying these are the best Christmas films. All I'm saying is that these are the ones that I always go to every Christmas season and watch. So without further ado, this is my ranking for my top favorite Christmas movies. Number 7. Bill Murray's 1988 film Scrooged is a reimagining of the classic Dickens tale. This movie, originally when I first saw it, was not one of my favorite films for Christmas. Maybe at the time when I first saw it, it just didn't connect with me, but now it's just a mainstay in my Christmas list. I always have to check this film out. The movie tells the story of a network executive who's kind of grumpy and angry and lost what he used to have when he was younger, which was connection with people, a girl, his family. It's just all gone away. Now all he is about business. He just wants to see his network succeed, but along the lines, he's a little bit more angry towards the holiday season in general. And that's when he's visited by the ghost of his former boss, who tells him that he died miserable, and Bill Murray's gonna die miserable if he doesn't change his ways. And that's when he tells him that 3 ghosts are going to visit you, the ghosts of Christmas past, present, and future, to show you that you're living basically a terrible life, and the way you're going, you're going to end up dying alone. It's just like I said, it's just a reimagining of A Christmas Carol. But it's done great, and I don't know, for some reason now I enjoy it much more than I did when I was younger. Maybe I just didn't understand it when I was a kid, and I guess this because there's just not that much comedy in this comedy Christmas film. It's a little bit darker than what people were expecting from Bill Murray at the time. So I'm assuming that's why the film didn't do so well, and that's why some critics don't like this film. But as I said, I really like this movie, and I think if you haven't seen it, you definitely should check it out. It's a fun Christmas film. Number 6. A Very Harold and Kumar Christmas. Harold and Kumar were once best friends that would go on wild and crazy adventures together when they were both stoners, but times have changed. Now Harold has moved out of his shared apartment with Kumar, he married his girlfriend Maria, and he and Maria have decided to have a baby together. Kumar, on the other hand, hasn't changed at all. He's still a lazy stoner slacker with zero drive and ambition and just wishes everything could be back to the way they used to be. Kumar won't admit it, but he wishes he had Harold and Vanessa back in his life. But they left because he just wouldn't grow up. It's not until Vanessa stops by and tells Kumar that she's pregnant that he decides to start to make a change in his life. But those plans have to be put on hold for a little bit because somebody knocks on the door and he sees a package that was left there for Harold. But Harold hasn't lived there in a few years. He decides to hand deliver it to Harold and discovers that somebody sent him a giant joint. Kumar, being Kumar, tries to smoke it when Harold tosses it out of his window, but with a little bit of Christmas magic, the joint comes back into the house and burns down Maria's father's Christmas tree. Harold and Kumar then decide independently to go look for another Christmas tree, as Kumar feels bad that he feels responsible that the tree got burnt down, and Harold just needs to get another tree because he's scared of Maria's father. Later on, they decide to join forces and come to the realization that they actually do miss each other's company. The boys have another wild and crazy adventure, and it's not until the end where Kumar realizes that he wants to marry Vanessa and raise their child together. Next to this film, the first one's my favorite. I'm sure this is not on many people's Christmas movie list, but it is on mine. I love this film, and I think it perfectly closes out a trilogy. It's bizarre that the word trilogy is coming out of my mouth when talking about Harold and Kumar, because the first film was just a typical 2000s stoner comedy. But I guess it was so successful they decided to make a sequel. And to be honest, I'm not that big of a fan of Escape from Guantanamo Bay. I believe it's the weaker film out of the 3. But I haven't seen it since it was originally released, so don't take it as solid fact that I dislike that movie. And like I said, it's just the lesser one out of the 3. Out of all 3, this is my favorite, and then it'd be number 1 and Guantanamo Bay. But anyway, yes, talking about this movie, I always have to watch this movie during the Christmas season. And yes, it's a raunchy comedy that pokes fun of everybody. And in today's times when you can't make fun of anyone without being labeled as a ist or phobe, it's a breath of fresh air. I wish they still made movies like this, especially comedies. Let me know in the comment section down below if Harold and Kumar 3 is on your Christmas watch list. It's on mine. Number 5.
You'll shoot your eye out, kid. Ho, ho, ho.
A Christmas Story is a film about Ralphie Parker and a special Christmas he had as a 9-year-old boy growing up in Holman, Indiana. What is so special about this Christmas that he remembers? It's basically how he really wanted this Red Ryder air rifle and everything he did to try to convince his parents, his teacher, and even Santa Claus to give their approval of him getting it. But they all tell him the same thing: you'll shoot your eye out. What's also great about this movie is that we get to see Ralphie's daydreams, and he daydreams about getting the rifle and what he would do with it. He daydreams about how he would try to get approval for getting the rifle, and also how he would get rejected. It's a really good movie that had a big influence on pop culture later on when it was shown on network television. In fact, this is how they came up with the Wonder Years, was from A Christmas Story. So the narrator, who's the old Ralphie, does an amazing job at making you feel, and I don't know if it's just him or his voice or also how they recorded it, making us feel that we were actually watching a movie that took place in the 1940s. To be honest, I really thought this was like a 1960s movies for the longest time. And I had to look it up and go, oh my God, this came out in the 80s? To be fair, this movie is more than just about Ralphie wanting the gift. We also get to see how he perceived his parents at that age, bullies, his friends. It's a great movie, and one that I have to admit, just like Scrooge, I was not a big fan of when I was a little kid, but not for the same reasons that I wasn't a fan of Scrooge when I was younger. I actually did enjoy this movie the first time I saw it, but network television would play this movie all day long. They would run marathons of A Christmas Story on Christmas, even on New Year's Eve. It was really, really annoying, and it made me dislike the film for a long time. It took a few years of not watching this to rewatch it and enjoy it again. And now this is on my Christmas watch list. I have to see it at least one time, and I had to watch it for this video. I'm gonna watch it again. So yes, I really do enjoy this movie, and it is a Christmas classic. It's 40 years old, and it has to be seen on Christmas. Number 4. A lot of people are gonna ask me, how the hell is Jingle All The Way so high on your list? And to be honest, I don't know. I really can't tell you why. But I do like this a lot. And I do watch this every single Christmas. And it's just something about it. I know it's corny, schlocky, and it's just, I don't know, but I just love it. I love everything about this. It's so out of place. Sinbad is over the top and ridiculous and terrible in this movie. Arnold is trying so hard, and this movie doesn't really work for him. And he says some ridiculous lines in it, but I don't know. And the kid, Anakin, the little Anakin, oh God, is he annoying. I want to just hit him so badly. But I love this movie. I really do. I love it for how terrible it is. I just watch it every year. This is one of my favorites. I could have been even higher, but I was like, no, I can't put this that high up there because everyone's going to ridicule me. But yes, I do love this movie a lot. Jingle All The Way. I don't know why. I can't tell you. I cannot tell you why, honestly. It's just a movie about a father who forgets to buy his kid a Christmas gift because he's obsessed with work. He's more into work and everything, and he forgets to get his kid that gift that kid wants. And he has to rush on Christmas Eve to go find it, but it's the hottest toy out there. It is sold out everywhere, and he goes to this wild and crazy journey to try to get it for his kid, and he ends up actually doing something a little bit better at the end of the movie. And I love it. It's so stupid, and I love it. I really do love this movie. Jingle All The Way is really high, and trust me, I debated for a long time where to place this, what number to place this at. I settled for number 4. Oh, I don't know. I really like this movie. And let me know, do you like Jingle All The Way, or is it cheesy and you're just like, oh, this is stupid? I really like this. I really like this movie.
I'm not a pervert. I just was looking for Turbo Man doll.
Number 3. Christmas Vacation is my favorite vacation movie, and not because it's Christmas themed, but because it's the one film where I can actually relate to Clark. The one and only thing Clark and I have in common is loving big Christmas gatherings. My favorite Christmases was when both sides of my family would come over and we'd celebrate it all together. So Clark loves Christmas and always wanted to host a big holiday gathering, and he unfortunately gets his wish when not only does his parents come over for the holidays, but his wife's mother and father. The kids and Clark's wife know that having everyone under the same roof isn't a good idea, but Clark insists that they're family and it's Christmas. Meanwhile, we discovered that Clark is expecting to get a big Christmas bonus this year, as his company is expected to announce him as the new food additive designer of the year. I have no clue what the hell that means, but Clark's expecting a fat bonus that he hopes will cover the rest of a pool he's already put down a deposit on, a $7,000 non-refundable deposit. The relatives arrive and start to complain immediately, which annoys the rest of the family, but Clark stays positive and continues on trying to make Christmas great. Things just aren't going right for Clark though, as he's having trouble decorating his home with Christmas lights, his tree gets set on fire, his Aunt Bethany and Uncle Louis show up and they're old and almost, Aunt Bethany's pretty senile, and she wrapped up their cat as a Christmas present in a box accidentally, and the cat ends up getting electrocuted. Clark's wife's redneck cousins show up uninvited, and Clark doesn't get his Christmas bonus. At the end of it all, Clark does get a chance to tell his boss off for not giving him that bonus. His boss ends up feeling bad and promises to give everyone in the company their bonuses, and Clark will get an extra 20% more than he made the year before. The family all rejoice, and we are left with the same funky Christmas music we heard when the film started. Yeah, I like this movie a lot. I'm not a huge fan of Chevy Chase, not because of his acting, but because of all the stories I've heard about him behind the scenes and in real life. But this is one of his best characters, and there's just something about Clark and his portrayal of him, this bumbling, doofy buffoon that's actually really nice and pure-hearted in a way. Anyway, as I said, I really do enjoy this movie. The Christmas theme does add to it more, but it could have been Thanksgiving, and it still would be one of my favorite films from Chevy Chase, to be honest. And I love that the next door neighbors, the yuppies, keep getting tortured because they live next to Clark. And I love Clark's comebacks. Sometimes he's just funny. So yes, it is one of Chevy Chase's best characters besides Fletch. And I really do like this movie, and that's why it's number 3. Number 2.
You sit on a throne of lies.
It could be debated that Elf is one of the greatest Christmas films ever made. I do know one thing for a fact, and that's that Jon Favreau and Will Ferrell made a new Christmas classic when they brought this magnificent Christmas masterpiece to life. The film tells the story of Buddy, an orphan that sneaks into Santa's bag on Christmas night and ends up in the North Pole. Santa and the elves decide to keep Buddy and raise him as an elf. For 30 years, Buddy thought he was an elf like everyone else, even though there were some tasks he just couldn't do. Everything he tries to do, he fails at and calls himself a cotton-headed nitty-muggin, which I guess is a pretty bad thing for elves to say, as when he said it, all the other elves were like, oh. Later on, Buddy discovers that he's not an elf, and he's actually adopted, and decides to go to the real world to find his biological father, who doesn't even know Buddy exists. From here on, Buddy tries to acclimate himself to the real world and make a connection with his father and his new family, but fails. He's just different and innocent, and he just doesn't understand how the real world works. He also falls in love with a girl that is played by Zooey Deschanel. Unfortunately, though, no matter how hard he tries, he just can't seem to do anything right, just like he did in the North Pole. And he thinks he's useless. After his father yells at him for screwing up a meeting that his father needed to achieve, his father basically kicks him out, kind of disowns him, and Buddy ends up wandering into Central Park, when all of a sudden he sees Santa crash in the middle of the park, and he finds out that Santa's engine is not working, and that's one thing his pop taught him how to do, was fix Santa's sleigh, the engine, to work on it. So Santa asks Buddy for his help to fix the engine, and Buddy says he doesn't want to touch it because he's nervous, because he's been screwing up everything for so long. And Santa tells him, you're more of an elf than you really know. And it gives Buddy a little bit of confidence to help try to fix Santa's engine. But then they're running out of time, and that's when we see Buddy's father and half-brother show up. And Buddy's half-brother discovers that the Santa's sleigh used to work on people's believing in Santa Claus being real. But that, since people stopped believing in Santa, now has to work on this engine, and they can't get the engine to work fully properly. And unless this gets done, there's going to be no Christmas that night. So Buddy's brother and father take Santa's list, and he starts reading off and trying to make people believe that Santa exists. And that's when Zooey Deschanel shows up in front of the family and other people and says, well, we have to make them believe. So she starts singing. And then everybody in Central Park starts singing, and everyone at home starts singing, and miraculously, the sleigh starts to work again, and Buddy and his family saved Christmas. Out of all the movies on this list, this is one of the more wholesome ones. I mean, especially compared to A Christmas Vacation, which is a raunchy comedy, which is by far not as raunchy as a very Harold and Kumar Christmas. And even Scrooge is a little bit more darker toned. This is the more wholesome film in the entire list, and one of the best Christmas movies ever made. And I'm actually surprised they didn't try to make a sequel of this. And I'm glad, though, that they didn't. And who knows, they might end up trying to do it someday soon in the future. But I'm glad that they haven't. And I'm glad that they wouldn't, because it would have kind of tainted the original movie by making a sequel. But anyway, as I said, I'll say it again. This is one of my favorite movies for Christmas. I really do love it. And I believe it is a Christmas classic. This is one of the best Christmas films ever made, hands down. Number 1.
You guys give up, or you're thirsty for more?
Home Alone 1 and 2 are on this list, but really just 1. Because 2 is basically a carbon copy of 1, just set in New York, and it doesn't work as much because Macaulay Culkin's older, but also he really doesn't care. And it's evident because later on in interviews, he talks about how, it was just a carbon copy of the first one. The only reason why Home Alone 2 is on with Home Alone 1 in my top 1 ranked, I put 2 and 1 together. Really for 2, it's that the little traps that Kevin does is a little bit more outrageous and cartoonish and crazier than they were in the first one. The first one, they were a little outrageous but believable. A little bit more believable. In part 2, they're over the top, especially the whole scene with Kevin throwing the bricks down and hitting Marv in the face. But I love it, and Marv sells it so perfectly. And that's what works. It's Marv, it's Harry, Kevin. That works very well when they're together. And Tim Curry and Rob Schneider. Those are the reasons why this movie kind of works. Catherine O'Hara is fine in this. She does a good job. But it's the same movie as the first one. But the first one is a classic. I love the first one. I grew up with the first one. The whole idea of a little kid that's being kind of like bullied or looked over in his family, which his siblings bully him, as siblings like to tease each other, whatever, but his siblings bully him. His parents kind of neglect him because they're worried about going on the vacation, and everyone else, it just seems like Kevin doesn't exist in the house, and they're ignoring him. And he gets upset, and he doesn't even get the slice of pizza that he wants. Why can't they get this kid a plain cheese pizza, huh? Like, why didn't he have toppings on everything? Kevin doesn't like toppings. Anyway, so he gets upset, and he fights with his brother, and he attacks his brother in the kitchen, and he causes a big scene, and they send him up to sleep in the attic. And he doesn't want to sleep in the attic. He tries to kiss up, and his mother goes, well, you should have thought about that before you did this. And that's when Kevin blows up, and he goes, you know what? I'm not sorry. Basically, I hate you, and I wish none of you guys were around anymore. I wish you all disappear and leave me alone. I wish when I grow up, I want to live all alone. And they make it seem like Christmas magic occurs, and that's how he wakes up with nobody in the home. When in fact, it was a blackout, and they woke up late, and they rushed, and they forgot him, and they accidentally counted another kid who just showed up as well. The first movie is so good compared to the sequel. The sequel just so ridiculous, but I like the sequel, and I like the stupid talk boy. But obviously, the sequel, number 2, is not as good as number 1. But like I said, the first movie is fantastic. Everything works so well. It's a great John Hughes film. The second movie, I don't know how John really just put. That's what Macaulay Culkin said. Like, John Hughes just put the script in the computer. The first one, it started changing the exteriors and interiors a little bit, and he came up with this one. I mean, even to the fact where the first movie, there was the old guy that Kevin was talking to, the neighbor. This one is a bum on the street. I don't like that. I don't like 2 that much. I'm telling you. When I was a kid, I loved 2. I thought 2 was great. But as an adult, I don't like 2 that much. But I love both of these movies together, and I always do have to watch them for Christmas. The first one's just a great film. It's perfect. It's a perfect film. And like I said with Elf, it's kind of good that they didn't make a sequel to that because it would have tainted the original. Well, 2 kind of taints the original Home Alone. Now, I know there's a lot of people that hate Home Alone. They don't like it at all. And I'm kind of surprised by that. But to each their own. I do like Home Alone 1 and 2. Home Alone 3 is garbage. I don't care what anybody says. It's terrible. Home Alone 4 and 5 are even worse. That's all I'm going to say about that. But yes, I love Home Alone. And I put Home Alone 1 and 2 on my top number 1 ranked Christmas movie to watch because I watch this every year multiple times, both of these movies. So, yes. So that's my list. Let me know in the comment section down below, what are your favorite Christmas films? Some honorable mentions, I will say all those Christmas animated movies, like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, Frosty the Snowman, Charlie Brown Christmas, How the Grinch Stole Christmas. I'll put those movies as separate. You know, I didn't want to put those in here, but those are great to watch too. Maybe next year I'll rank those films, those animated films. Even how A Nightmare Before Christmas. I didn't put it on here because it's animated, but maybe next year I'll do an animated ranked Christmas watch list. Yeah, let me know in the comment section down below what's your favorite Christmas films and rank them for me. Do your top 7 or even do top 10. I wanted to do 7 because I figured it'd be quicker to do 7, and these are the 7 that I actually do watch every year. And remember, guys, hit that like button if you enjoyed this video. Subscribe if you're new here, and I'll check you guys next year. Peace.
Merry Christmas, you filthy animal. And a Happy New Year.